Hi, it's Stu, and this is going to be my third week of November weekish TBR video. So I'll be pulling from the different piles of possibilities or talking about things that maybe I had spontaneously put on hold that have come off hold, or adjustments to my last TBR. So sort of like we're at the almost the end of the week. We do have the weekend for reading for last weekend. I slowed down because of the bigger books and things in life, so I haven't gotten through all of what I had planned to read, but most. And I think just to continue to be chipping away at my piles of possibilities, but also give myself some diversity of choice, I'm comfortable adding a few things for week three's TBR. So, okay. Firstly, Saints of the Household by Adi Tyson. I'm actually already halfway through this book. I'm both listening and reading, as this uses both verse and prose to tell two different points of views of two teenagers growing up in Minnesota. And the author of this book is Bribri, which is a group of indigenous people from Costa Rica, and so are these characters. And so this book was a selection. It's young adult. I'm enjoying it very much, and I recently hauled it in Corvallis, but I was really excited to find it. And I hadn't originally put it on my pile of possibilities for Native American Heritage Month, and then felt really compelled towards it. So I went ahead and just kind of started listening to it. I actually had to, I DNF'd another book that I had planned to listen to, and then wanted something that I just had to sort of almost feel like make up for the 100 or whatever pages I made it through that book, which was this one. It was the Jacobian Building, which I was excited about because it was an Egyptian author, and I hadn't read Egyptian author before, but the sexism and the homophobia in the book were not only distracting, they were trite and tired and almost boring. Like painting women in that way is, just, I'm almost bored by the prospect. And so I don't need to spend time mucking through all of that. And the writing was, it wasn't enough to say, okay, I can ignore this like huge elephant, so that I can get to learning some things that I didn't know before. Yeah, I just gave up on it. Anyway, in the same vein of young adult books, for Neurovember, my read, I'm going to put this on the TBR, and that's Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. This is also young adult, and this was a pick that I had for Neurovember. Speaking of Neurovember, I have sort of spontaneously, when listening to a book reviewer, not even talking about Neurovember, but just talking about books that she really liked, she talked about All the Little Birds by Victoria Lloyd Barlow. And that book has the author is neurodivergent. So I wanted to make sure to read not only just books that had the characters, and especially since the maid didn't have a diagnosis, and I felt kind of uncomfortable with that book. I thought that this one would, as per what was explained to me, would be a good choice. It was also long listed. I think if I didn't just say that, I got a little sidetracked looking to see the publication date, and I didn't need it. There's a sticker on the front of the book which says it was long listed for the Booker in 2023. So that's All the Little Bird Hearts, and I actually plan to listen to that. I have heard that it's a great audiobook, but as you see, I also have the digital. I don't have a physical of this book. Okay, so keeping in the vein of the Booker, My Zadie Smith Swing Time is going to be my sort of Booker pick for this week's TBR. And it is also on my 10 until the end. I have had this book on my shelf. Probably it's one of the longest standing books on my shelf. So it's a bit of a chunker, and I have to sort of accommodate that as well. But I'm happy to do that. So this is my Booker pick for the upcoming week. Or adding to the sort of like swinging around TBR. I have another bit of a chunker, which I don't know how excited I am for. I actually hauled this book just before summer, and it was on summer reading, and it came up, and I bumped it because this is a political thriller, and it's called Two Nights in Lisbon by Chris Pavone. And I thought like something like a political thriller is a great, well-traveling summer read. The folks giving the blurbs are John Grisham and Stephen King. That sort of sets the tone or tenor of the kind of, I guess these books are described as the kinds that you would buy at the airport, right? The airport sort of book, which can be really appropriate and alluring for, you know, international travel and summer vibes. It's a very popular book. I suspended the hold and then I put it back on hold as soon as I got back, and it's taken this long to get off hold. So here it is off my hold shelf now, and I'm gonna give it a try. I don't feel really a whole lot of want to read this book right now. I think it was more appropriate in the summer, but again, it's off, so I'm gonna give it a try, and if it doesn't work, then I'm gonna decide to unhaul it or put it back into maybe next summer's reading. All right, and then speaking of sort of other than the Booker and Native American Neurovergent, Elizabeth Strauss Olive Again definitely has fall vibes. And in what I was going to say was, speaking of summer reading, I actually read Olive Kitteridge this summer, and I really enjoyed it. It took a while. It was quite slow moving. I didn't really like Olive as a character, but I didn't not like her, and I thought that Elizabeth Strout did an excellent job of developing the setting and the character that she developed in Olive Kitteridge. So before it goes too far into my distant memory of a book that I read over the summer, I thought, especially since this has a fall vibe, I wanted to get to this book. So I'm going to put it on my TBR this week. It's not a very big commitment, and it is sort of, it's a writing and a character that I'm already a little bit familiar with. So there's that. Also coming up, I spontaneously put The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff on hold. And I think this is a more contemporary book, and I think that was part of the reason I had heard someone reviewing, and I thought, you know what, I want to make sure that I'm also, yeah, it was April of 2025. I'm wanting to make sure that I also, you know, get a few really in the moment reads in, and so I liked the premise of The Bright Years. I think it's taking place in Texas. I haven't been in Texas for a while, and so I heard about it. I looked that it was going to be a really long hold. I put it on hold, and I think what happened is my library acquired more copies, and I think that's happening to several books that I had put on hold, which I was anticipating for a really long time. Anyway, that's a lot of talking. It was on hold for 7 weeks, so it was on hold for a while. Anyway, it's come off, and I will try to get to it, and I might have to make a choice between that and the Two Nights in Lisbon, which is it's fine by me. I don't have to. Both of those are sort of like spontaneous puts on this TBR, and they won't be necessarily my priorities. Speaking another spontaneous book, Whereabouts by Jhumpa Lahiri is going to be a buddy read. I had 2 copies of this book, and one was a hardback, and I have someone who doesn't want to commit to very long read, and I thought that this would apply to that, and also really likes hardbacks. They like to read without the dust jackets, or to use the dust jacket as a as a bookmark, and then they shelve the books. They like to keep books, so I gave that my other copy of Jhumpa Lahiri's Whereabouts to them, and they're going to they like to keep the dust jackets in a different place and shelve the books actually upside down, which is all interesting things to learn about people's bookish habits. Anyway, this they told me they don't know when they're going to get to it, but they will let me know when they've started so that I can also start reading. I actually, the digital's on hold, but the audio was available. And it's not a particularly long book, and I would think actually I'd quite like to listen to it as well as read it. So that works out for me as well. And this is going to happen maybe in the next week, maybe in the next week. And that's okay too. It's on my shelf. That's on my TBR shelf. So that's it. It is a lot. It feels like a lot because it is a lot. And I am fully aware that I'm going to have to make probably some choices around a couple of books that I'm not sure if now is the right vibe or mood for them. But other than that, the neuroavergent, the Booker, and the Native American heritage, I'm going to stay quite committed to, and we shall see how it goes in my weekend reading review in a week or a little more.